What's up, Pharma family? How y'all doing today? Today, we're going to be talking about the Prolite K2 Power. Prolite was the first company to come out with a composite paddle. Before them, it was literally all wooden paddles. I don't know if y'all played with a wooden paddle or not, but they've got these little paddles. They're called the Dillers, I think is what it's called. And they have them at some of the rec centers that I've been to. And they feel like they're like 15 ounces. Those bad boys are heavy. And I am so glad we're not playing with those because they feel so jank. But yeah, this was the company that made the first composite paddle that got us away from that. And they've been making paddles ever since. This is their newest paddle. I'm going to be going over the specs, the RPMs, the twist weight, the swing weight, all that good stuff. But first, I just want to let y'all know that I have a code for them. It's Farmer. If you use that at checkout, you'll get a 15% discount. I will get a kickback from that. But let's get into these specs, y'all. The thickness of this paddle is 14 millimeters. It's made of Terray T700 carbon fiber. For the spray-on grit, it's a perma-traction texture. I'm not sure if it's the same as Selkirk's. I've played a decent amount with one of my two, Prolite K2 Powers, and it doesn't seem like the grit's wearing down as quick as the Luxe that I have did. The length of this paddle is 15 5/8 inch. The width is 8 1/16 inch. The grip circumference is 4 1/4 inch. The grip length is 4 3/4 inch. One thing I do want to say, the grip feels very weird compared to other paddles that I've used. It took a little bit to get used to it. It definitely feels different for sure. So be ready for that when you play with the paddle. It'll take a little bit of adjustment. The weight range is 7.5 to 7.8 ounces. And if you notice by the video I'm showing right now, the paddle gets bigger at the throat hole, which is really cool. I noticed that as soon as I got it out, I was like, okay, this looks like a straight 20 millimeter, paddle down at the bottom. And then it goes up to a 14 millimeter after the throat hole. I just thought that was pretty cool. And I also wanted to add that lately I have been playing in 2 different locations. So you'll see footage from multiple places. One will be the hardwood flooring and the other one will be at Pickleball Playground where I use Franklin X40s. So I've been testing in both places with all of these paddles. Let's talk about the pop first. When you're at the kitchen or you go to do speed ups, this has a decent amount of pop to it. Like anytime, you go flick your wrist to do a speed up or a flick, anything like that, it is going to launch off the face pretty fast. Now, I wouldn't say that it has quite the pop that a Selkirk Power Air has, which you're going to see me go back to that consistently through this video. They're very similar, but different. But yeah, the Selkirk Power Air has slightly more pop than this, so if the Selkirk Power Air's pop was a little too much for you, this one does have a little bit less. But in terms of power, I would say the Power Air is definitely a couple notches ahead of the K2 Power, in terms of power. Like this thing's swing weight is so light that you had to add a decent amount of lead tape for you to be able to get power with this paddle. Now, I'm not saying that once you add lead tape that this is still a weak paddle. It's just not going to have the plow through that some of the elongated paddles have, or like the Power Air does if you let it up. But just know, this leans more towards the poppy side than towards the power, if you was to put it on a spectrum. When it comes to control, this is something that I really had to focus on for the first couple of games. Now, when you're playing with a poppy paddle, a lot of the times you are going to struggle with the control of it. That's just something that naturally happens. If you played, with the Selkirk Power Air any at all, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That thing is so hard to control. Now, it's not going to be like impossible to control, but you will have to have an adjustment period if you're going from a less poppy paddle, which you probably are, to be honest. When it came to the spin of this paddle, it got 1817 or 1817. I don't know why I didn't say it like that. What the heck was that? But yeah, this thing gets really good spin. You're not going to be disappointed by the spin. I'm not really sure how the paint grit or the spray on grit is going to last. I have been playing with it a decent amount and I haven't noticed it going down any. But just know that, usually spray on grit tends to deteriorate a little bit quicker than the pill ply, raw carbon fiber paddles do. But yeah, overall, it is definitely in the, highest tier category in terms of spin. The swing weight on this was 98. Yes, you heard me correct. 98. This thing was super crazy light when it came to swinging it around and stuff like that. I often found myself getting around on the ball quicker than I should, so I put a considerable amount of lead tape on it. But yeah, the swing weight, that is nice. This thing is all about hand battles and speeding the ball up at people. And everyone I play with knows I'm crazy aggressive, so that's always a plus. I'm just don't play enough with 13 and 14 millimeter paddles to play one and main one consistently. So I generally will stick with a 16 as my main paddle. And when it comes to the weight, this thing weighs 7.6 ounces, which is crazy light, along with the swing weight. When it comes to the twist weight of this paddle, it's 6.43, which is literally right at average, or what we expect or consider average in terms of twist weights. So the twist weight is an overall good stat, but since this is technically an edgeless design paddle and it's got a decent sized twist weight, the paddle head's big. You will need lead tape on the sides to increase the sweet spot. Definitely. Because you'll notice along the edges or a little off from the center, it'll make a louder, thuddier noise. And adding lead tape to the edges will basically drag out the sweet spot a little bit more, and it won't sound as dead until you get near the edges. Most edges paddles are going to have that problem. This isn't the first one. Selkirk Power Air was like that. You could hear a thud with it. When it comes to value for your money, this is a $180 paddle, and with my 15% discount, I think it got it down to $153. So this is how I describe the paddle, or would describe the paddle to people. Do you like paddles that feel similar to the Selkirk Power Air? Are you coming from the Selkirk Power Air? Or some of the PaddleTech paddles? I can't remember the name of it, but one of the PaddleTech paddles felt very similar to this as well. If you are used to those kinds of paddles, this one will definitely be for you. But if you like the raw carbon fiber, peel ply processed paddles, this one will definitely feel different and off-putting until you get very used to it. So this is one of those paddles that's going to be controversial. Some people are going to be gravitating towards it and saying they like it because they're used to paddles like the Power Air. And then some people I feel are going to hate this paddle because they like the raw carbon fiber paddles. It basically depends on which kind of person are you, essentially. So before you buy this paddle or any paddle, I want you to think really hard what kind of player you are, what paddles you've used in the past, and then try to make an educated decision based on that. But yeah, that's all I can tell you when it comes to value for your money. I wish they had a longer handled version, and I like to see companies get away from the throat hole. I hate the throat hole. I feel like a longer handle and lack of a throat hole in this paddle would make this paddle a crazy, crazy good paddle. I'm just not a fan of the throat hole, and the handle's a little too short for me. But yeah, until next time, stay safe, have a good day, drink plenty of water. Peace, y'all.